Welcome to Suzette Smart Subscription. This month we're going to talk about clusters and splits and how the marquee can help you design tools to show these things to people and really saves you a lot of time. I've been using Bay Photo for over a year now, and they have some beautiful products. Thin wraps are super popular. Let's take a look at the thin wraps. They're a thin image and they float out from the wall. Everybody loves them. In fact, now they're my standard treatment for images. And now they came out with a new product, and it's called splits and clusters. These are amazing. In fact, everybody wants to figure out how to do a cluster or a split. There's something magnetic about telling a story with a grouping of images. Like here's 9 up. This is called the tic-tac-toe. This one is modern. So we've got a really unique layout there. Now sometimes we have layouts that don't really work for our images, so I need to customize. Let me just show you what this looks like in rows. I'm going to pop up Bay Photos rows, and let's just go over to my catalog, and I'm going to go to the catalog of thin wraps, and then inside thin wraps we have clusters and splits. So let's just try this first one. It's called tic-tac-toe, and there's 9 6x6s. And I've got some images here. We've got tic-tac-toe 10x10s, 12x12s, the 4 square with 12x12s, 16x16s, 20x20s. Then we have film strip, the big E, formal 4, timeless. There's lots of different layouts. These are really cool. But let's say we do a classic triptych. Here's 3, and then here's the rectangular triptych. But what if my images are not vertical? Now, if they want to do something like this, a vertical is great. So we've got a vertical, and there it is. You can actually show your customer using rows. Now, of course, I turn off the features so they can't see the prices. But I can actually open up rows and drag my images in and kind of give them a visual of what this looks like. It works really good. But in the case of what if one of these pictures was a horizontal, what can you do? Well, there's not much you can do with this because it's set up a certain way in rows, but I did call the lab and find out what my options were, because what if this middle print was a horizontal? They said that's no problem. I would just drag in my image and then I would rotate it. Of course, just put it in the notes so that they would print it that way. So that's easy enough to figure out, but I still want to be able to show my customer visually. So that's when I came up with this crazy idea to make a bunch of placeholders and templates. So here is what I've created. I have a document that's the size of a wall, and I have all of these layouts designed actually to scale so that I can actually show my customer. Now, let's say this one. This is called the stair climber. It's got a horizontal, 2 verticals, and it goes up to the right. Well, the customer that liked this, their stairs actually go the other way, and all their family portraits were horizontals. So this allowed me to take this layout, completely rearrange it. It's the same size and everything, but I can give them a custom design. Here's another one, the modern cluster. Look at this, totally fresh layout right here. So all of these can be modified however you like. So here's the rectangular triptych I showed you, and then here's another modification. So how did we make these? I'll show you here in just a minute. Let me just show you some images here. Here is a tic-tac-toe with 9 images. Here's the classic stair climber I was telling you about. We just rearranged it with all horizontals and the 3 pictures of the kids. And here is the vertical triptych. I just made them all horizontal, and here's another different grouping. And I actually was able to show these to my customer in Photoshop. Here's another one, the modern cluster. But what if we want a completely different layout? Check this out. That's the same cluster. And I turned them all to be a stair-step design. Or we could do it that way. Or we could do it this way. There's all kinds of different options if you actually have a layout that you can show your customer. So let's make one of these documents, and I'll show you how easy it is. I did design a document that had all the different sizes in it so that I could drag them and drop them into my templates and design away. Now, of course, you can always make up your own clusters, too. There's nothing wrong with that. You would have to order them separately to do that, but of course you can make your own. So let's jump into Photoshop and see how this works. Okay, so let's talk about how we did this in Photoshop. This is my document, and all these different layers are, each of them are images a specific size. Like this one's a 16 by 24, this one is a 20 by 24, and you can see over here that I named the layer the size that it should be. And then I can drag them into the documents to use them. Now, how did I make this? Well, I kind of went about it a logical way. First of all, I want people to visualize this on their wall. Most couches are somewhere around 7-8 feet, and most walls are 8-foot ceilings. Occasionally you have higher ones, but let's assume we have an 8-foot ceiling. And a couch is usually about 3 feet high on the back, so from the top of the couch to the ceiling is about 5 feet. And the length of the couch is approximately 7 feet. So that's what I did. I made a document that size. So I did File, New, and we want to do 84 inches. That is 7 feet. And how high? We want to go 60 inches. That's 5 feet. Now, if we do it at 300 dpi, that's going to be a monster. So I'm going to just make it 100 dpi. So 84 by 60 inches at 100 dpi and say OK. And here's my wall. And you can look up here and see how big something is really easily just by looking at the inches. So then you can visualize it actually to scale. So then I just started by making these little documents, like this little 6 by 6. Now, how do I get a size exactly proportionally to this wall? Well, here's where the tricks in marquees come in. So I'm going to go over here to the marquee tool. And on the option bar, most of us don't ever even change this, but right here where it says Style and Normal, check this out. There's a drop down and you can do fixed ratio or fixed size. So I'm going to choose fixed size, and let's say I want to do an 8 by 8. Okay, so I put 8 inches by 8 inches, and then when I click my marquee, look at that. It only makes that certain size. I can drag, but it won't make it any bigger. So here's what I did. I made a blank layer. I clicked my marquee, and then I chose a color. Let's go with blue. And then I just used the paint bucket, and I filled it with blue and deselected. So there's my little 8 by 8. I did go over here, and I changed the name of the layer to 8 by 8 just to help me out, because once I have all these layers, I need to keep them straight. And then I just did that over and over. I would make a new layer, and let's say I want to go back to my marquee, and we'll do a 12 by 18. And then click on there. There you go. There's your 12 by 18. And I would just go pick a new color, and then I would fill it and deselect. And that's how easy it is. Oh, don't forget to name each one 12 by 18. So this doesn't look all that realistic because it doesn't have any shadow or anything like that. So the next thing I did was I made a layer style so it looked like a thin wrap kind of floating out from the wall. So all you do is you double click on the layer out here on the blue part, or you can click on the FX button down here at the bottom of the layers palette. And then I came up with a little layer style. I just did a bevel and emboss, and I think my bevel was about 18, so I had a nice little rounded edge, and then of course I added a drop shadow, and my drop shadow distance, oh, let's make it a little bit farther, somewhere around 30, and the size maybe 35, something like that. That looks pretty good. And it's a little bit dark, so I turned down the shadow so it's a little bit more subtle to somewhere around 35, 37, just like that. So that's the layer style that I made to make it look like a real thin wrap. And all I needed to do is on this layer here that has the style, I would right click on it and go to Copy Layer Style. And then of course I could select all my layers, however many I have, and then right click and hit Paste Layer Style so they all have them. So here's what I did. I went through rows and I looked at all the different sizes, 6 by 6, 10 by 10, 12 by 12, 16 by 16, 20 by 20. I did all the different sizes, and I came up with a different color for each one. That was the hard part, is coming up with a new color for each one. Then with some of the unique ones, like the modern and those, they're odd sizes, like 10 by 31, that's not standard, 11.5 by 11.5, 20 by 32, and 10 by 13. So there's a few odd ones in here. I just have them floating on top. The rest of them are pretty standard. So I saved this document. So once I have that saved, let's say I want to make a new layout. So I'm going to delete these, and let's take a look here. So I just went over to Bay Photo, and let's look for the classic triptych. Okay, so this has a 20 by 30 and two 16 by 20s. That's easy enough. So I just went over here and I found my 20 by 30, so I dragged my 20 by 30 on, and 16 by 20s. There's a 16 by 20, drag those in. So using the move tool, I put that in the middle and one on each side. There we go, just like that. Now these are designed to be exactly an inch away. So if you want, you can just drag a guide over there and you can see that that's an inch. And right there, oh, it's pretty good eyeballing it. So about like that. I don't know that I would be that particular about it, but that's approximate. And there is my layout. They can visualize that. Okay, this is the length of the couch, and this is where the ceiling is. It fits nice there. So that's pretty much how I did it. It's really simple. Although I have to admit, it was pretty time-consuming laying out all 21 designs. So, to help you out, because it is December, and we're all way too busy to be doing stuff like this. So what I actually did is I saved this document for you, and I also made all these clusters and splits, all 21 designs, and a few other versions right here. Each one of these is the exact size that I just showed you to scale. I did add the name and the sizes of the image, and then I put this little text about this document being 5 feet tall and 7 feet wide wall, and the images are to scale so that you can describe that to your customer. So all you need to do is flip through these and use any one of them to populate. And of course you're going to use the clipping mask, which I'll show you here in just a moment. So all you need to do is go to shopsuzette.com and you can download these. Pretty fun, huh? Okay, so let me show you how to populate one and how to rearrange one of these layouts. Let's say we want to do the triptych, the vertical clusters. I want a trio of my sepia family images. I've got them open right here, and I want to show you how to customize this and how to populate them using the clipping mask. So this layout shows the name of the cluster and how many images and what size, and then it's a little reminder to explain to your customer this document is a visual of a 5 foot tall and 7 foot wide wall, the size of the wall over a typical 7 foot couch. So let's say this is the layout, and of course it is to scale, so you don't really want to resize anything, but we do want to change the orientation. So I can just transform and roll these over, and of course if I hold shift, that keeps them from, it keeps them snapping to level and even increments. So I always hold shift. Okay, so now I've got them all as horizontals, and I can rearrange however I want. I'm going to choose this image, and I'm going to drag this image on, Control-Alt-G or Command-Option-G for a Mac, and it clips it right to that image, and I'm just going to size it down to fit. Now, if you're going to be doing this with your customers, you probably want to practice up a little bit and make sure you have this down real smooth. Now, I'm going to drag in the next image, and if I go in there and I bring it in, look at that. It clipped it right to my other image. That's not what I meant. So if this happens to you, Control-Alt-G will unclip it. And then what you need to do, if you want to put it in this placeholder, you need to move that in the layer stack to where it's right above the placeholder that you want. See in the layer stack, it's right above it. Then you do Control-Alt-G or Command-Option-G, and it clips it right to that image. So then you can rearrange. That looks nice. And then we've got one more. Now here's what saves you time. If you're in your layout and you touch the layer that you want, of course, I'm in the Move tool and I have Auto Select Layer chosen. That way I don't have to go click on the layer here. If I have Auto Select Layer, any layer I just touch, it'll automatically show that in the layer stack. So I'm going to touch the layer I want, then I drag the image in, put it on top, Control-Alt-G or Command-Option-G, transform, and size it to fit. So there we go. Now we have a nice layout. So once you've got that in there, let's say you want to rearrange. Well, now every time you move an image, it like jumps out of alignment, right? So here's what you do. You take the layer and its placeholder and link it. Take the next layer and its placeholder, the one right below it, and click the little link at the bottom of the layer palette. Take the other layer and its placeholder and click. Now they're linked, so you can rearrange all day long. Say, oh, let's see, let's try it this way, let's try it this way. You can do it however you would like until you get the arrangement that your customer likes. So this works really well. And you know what? It's not a bad idea to put some of these together before your customer comes in. And of course, if you have samples on the wall, they're always attracted to that kind of display, and then you can actually show something that you've made ahead of time, and it's easy to modify. It takes a lot less time than creating it from scratch. So I hope you can use these. Definitely download these from shopsuzette.com. They're totally free, and you can just put them in a folder to use anytime you want. And then you can just connect with Bay Photo. I know that if you are not already a Bay Photo user, you get 25% on your first order. So that's a big savings. Thanks again for joining me on Suzette Smart Subscription. And don't forget to download these free. Actually, since you're a subscriber, you don't even have to download them. It's your free gift on your CD this time. So happy photoshopping. We'll talk next month.